lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and today I'm going to be going through the Facsimile edition of G.I. Joe #1. As you can clearly see, this is the reprint that Skybound has recently done, since they have now taken over the licensing of G.I. Joe comics and Transformers comics. So very excited with what they've been doing. A lot of cool stuff. The Transformers book has been great. Duke and Cobra Commander both look fantastic. Can't wait for those to come out. And even the issue 301 of G.I. Joe by Larry Hama and Chris Mooneyham, which makes it still one of the longest running series of comic book history at this point, because not many comics make it that long, to be honest with you. You know, with renumbering, well, even the ones that are renumbered, they got their legacy numbering, but for a book that has not changed its numbering over the course of its history, you know, it's just super important book within the history of comic books. And I wanted to talk about this one. You know, G.I. Joe, the comic book, always kind of escaped me. I never really read some of the Marvel stuff. Maybe here and there I had like a single issue or one-off. Obviously that, you know, the wordless issue, or silent, if you will, with Snake Eyes issue 21 was something that always stood out to me. But, you know, with the re-release of this Facsimile, I had to check it out. You know, I had to see what all the hype, you know, was about. And obviously, like, this is definitely a product of the 80s, right? Like, this is definitely something that kids of the 80s would really dig into. And so, you know, the first issue came out in 82. So this is, you know, 5 years before I'm born. G.I. Joe, like, obviously the cartoon was on when I was a kid. Turtles was more my flavor. So many cool facts about this run. You know, G.I. Joe was the Marvel's top-selling subscription title of 85, which is kind of crazy. And the amount of fan letters that they got on a weekly basis was, I think I read like around like 1,200, something like that. And just crazy, you know, like the fandom for this was super high. You know, I think it's even been credited with bringing in new readership, because so many kids and fans of the show found the comic books and then from there would go and read other stuff. So definitely helps grow the medium in that way, which is, you know, super important fact of the importance of this run, right? And, you know, Larry Hama, who's the writer of this, he has basically been the solo writer for most of those 301 issues. I think maybe there is a fill-in here or there. I'm not sure. I don't have those numbers in front of me. But, you know, he was asked, you know, by Hasbro when Marvel took over the license to do the comics, to basically build out this, you know, world of characters, and the background of these characters just completely changed the way G.I. Joe was looked at. You know, this one's got 2 stories in it. One's illustrated by Herb Trimpe, which is the first one, and that's Operation Lady Doomsday. And then the back one is Hot Potato by Don Perlin. You know, it introduced the iconic original 13, quote unquote, of members of G.I. Joe. And we also get, you know, the Baroness, Cobra Commander, all that good stuff. The Baroness made her first appearance in this issue. Pretty crazy to think about that, like, something that was started as a toy line, a TV show, like, or the TV show came out of this, rather. Just crazy to think about how much of an impact this had for years to come. And, you know, we get a little intro from Larry Hama in here. It says, looking back, there are 2 things in Earl American here that I've always wanted to fix. First, I'd always been bothered by the coloring mistake in issue 21, the silent interlude, which I had mentioned. In the obsolete scene, the colors didn't understand that the lid of the dungeon cell had been replaced and that the scene was supposed to be in darkness. That was finally corrected a little while back in a special reprint of the silent issue by another publisher. But the main error that has stuck in my craw since 82 has always been the Hawk speech that was rewritten by editorial without my knowledge, which cast a completely different light on the core ethics of the group that I had intended. It led many to assume that I was something I was not, a jingoistic hardliner. I'm extremely grateful to the good folks at Skybound Hasbro for restoring my original copy in this new reprint of A Real American Hero #1. So cool to hear that. You know, like, it's not just simply a reprint to reprint something. It's not a facsimile just to you know, make some money off of it. But it's a cool way for people like myself that had never read this first issue. And, you know, I have read some G.I. Joe comics over the course of my comic book reading. It's, you know, it's sometimes I like it, sometimes, you know, it hasn't been for me. But this is a great first issue. And I have to say, doing it on newsprint makes it that much better. I think it was so cool that they did it. it's cool to see, throughout this issue, the formation of the team. We get to see, like I said, the Baroness makes her first appearance here. Herb Trimpe did such a great job on this issue. He's better known for doing his stuff on the Hulk. This is, I think some of his best work for sure. And, we meet the Joes. We see the Combat Training Center. We get to see, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, whose costume is a little bit different than we've come to know. And, they got their mission. They have to go save this woman, Burkhart. And we get to see, like, this Cobra Commander. They don't know much about him at this point, but he's in charge of this operation, and the odds against us double. This is the Baroness. So they're giving them the lowdown. And we get to see each of these characters who, over the time, they don't just have their normal, green outfits, army outfits. They will come to have more iconic outfits and something that can kind of differentiate them when you're looking at them. Cool little mission that they go on. And we see, the power of Cobra Commander, all his forces, as they are, getting to full strength. And, only 6 of the Joes are going into this, to break into this facility. And, we see some of the other people that are going to come help make, also assist if they can't do it. But just a cool, fun little story. Definitely can see why this became such a popular comic book, definitely for the time. Definitely something, a different flavor than what, the rest of the Marvel line was probably. And, it was just an exciting time in comics. There's a little bit more experimentation. There's the big 2 were doing a lot more licensed stuff, which you don't see anymore. Marvel, although, has, kind of gotten back into that, but it's a little different since they own, Disney owns all that stuff. So them doing a Star Wars or doing the Aliens or doing a Predator isn't unusual. But, very cool to see that this, comic book, is being honored. At the same day that issue 301 was released, they re-released this facsimile, and we get to meet the Joes all over again, introducing them to a brand new audience that may or may not have, heard about them or isn't as familiar. And there we go. There's the cover to 301. Great cover by Andy Kubert. And as you can see, some of the Joes, like their outfits are different. You can differentiate them a little bit more. I always used to love this kind of stuff too. The Pit, the G.I. Joe Command Center. I always loved when they did maps or the interiors of like the headquarters, so you can kind of like see all the little nooks and crannies of where they're stationed. That was something that always kind of stood out to me, like when the Teen Titans, they did it with Titans Tower as well. And now we got another mission, and this time see Hawk's a little worse for wear, and Scarlet's telling him to to get out of here. And we see Rock and Roll's kind of with he's stuck over here with Snake Eyes and Scarlet. She tells him to get out. We got to get this tape over to Hawk. So we see him running through the desert, and she sends Snake Eyes to kind of follow him, but he doesn't see him, because he's a ninja. And I think we get more of his backstory later on, obviously. And Scarlet and Snake Eyes, this is the beginning, before we know the relationship they have. And obviously we get these kind of, I want to say generic kind of terrorists that they're going after. They're not going after Cobra Commander, but, another fun little adventure. And in the back, I had mentioned this, Duke and the Cobra Commander books that are going to be coming out. Joshua Williamson, Tom Riley are working on this one. So very excited for that. And this is the Cobra Commander one with Joshua Williamson, Andrea Milana. And again, we get a little bit of the vehicle, get the tank on the back, but fun comic. I'm so glad I picked this up. I'm so glad Skybound re-released it. I'm so happy that they did it in newsprint. I think it's the best way to read old comics. I think that Marvel should take a page out of Skybound's book and print their facsimiles on newsprint as well. DC, I think, does a really good job. It's kind of like a hybrid newsprint. It's not quite the same as this, although I'm thinking it might be damn near the same. But great item to pick up. I definitely recommend picking this up, picking up the rest of the Energon universe that Skybound's doing, connecting G.I. Joe and Transformers. And make sure you check out the rest of the vids on the channel. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, I'm out.